Perfect. All right. So, live. And I figure we'll hang out a couple minutes. Julia, thank you, as usual, for being our PR person.
That Instagram post was beautiful.
Yes.
On it. I was like, let me do something different.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. It was so good.
Yeah. Really communicates the yearning that I think we're in for.
It's like, I gotta think of aesthetic things that have to do with this book. I'm like, church, Fabergé egg.
Yeah.
Alcohol.
Yes.
Glitter.
For sure.
People in the 50s love to have a martini.
Yeah.
They did. Like it, and it was like they would drink with dinner. They would have after dinner drinks. They might start with pre-dinner drinks, and I'm like, are y'all okay? I don't think so.
I feel like there's one scene in particular, we'll get into stuff, but like where they like were outside, I think, in someone's backyard drinking, and she's like, what did you like, how many drinks does she have? And she's like, just the one, it's the same drink as yours. And she's like, okay.
Yeah.
Wrong drink.
Yeah. So that should go in content warnings as well. There's a lot of discussion of drinking and just general alcohol consumption.
Yeah,
is not really acknowledged as like over drinking, but
yeah. It reminds me of like 50s office culture where they would just have a bottle of like whiskey in their drawer.
Yes. And that was like considered normal, and I'm like, no, you guys need like therapy and
water.
Yeah. Mental health care.
I can barely do my job sober. I don't know how they're doing it with alcohol.
Truly, like adding even more stress, I guess. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and ease into our discussion. Hello, everybody. This is Past It Classics, our pop-up book club that appears without warning. We've explained before that it's like scheduling and other things, and I think we don't need to harp on that. Like everybody, I think watching knows that happens. So we're just really excited to be back here, and we're going to be discussing A Glass of Blessings by Barbara Pym. And before we get into the discussion, I'm going to ask my co-hosts if they want to do any like little introduction they desire, and we're also going to hit content warnings before we get into things. So Taylor or Julia, either one of you, feel free to give as much or as little intro as you like.
I actually am quite active on Instagram right now, so if you want Bookstagram content, especially about like upcoming releases, I am sharing like anticipated releases and things like that. So yeah, it's just my name, Shakespeare and such. So yeah.
So I'm Taylor from Page Screen Taylor, and I haven't been posting in a while, though I did make a surprise cameo in Phil Got Books' latest like book buying vlog. He ran into me at the bookstore and asked me a question. Then I was like, oh, do you have a BookTube channel? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God. So
he's like,
I had like a full 2 minutes in his video. And I'm going to count that as me posting. I'm going to steal a little bit of that glory. And I usually read, well, I read it all across the board, but I'm very much a mood reader. Right now I'm in a sort of space opera horror sort of phase.
Interesting. And hello, everyone. I'm Kara. My channel is obviously Wild Book Garden. That's where we are right now. And I have also not been the most consistent with uploading. I am still here. I am working on videos. They will someday see the light of day. There's just been a lot of things happening in the meantime that have made it basically impossible for me to have like a more reasonable upload schedule, but I also read all across the board. I am especially loud about reading middle grade. That's something that's very important to me. And actually, I run another book club that is focused on middle grade and young adult books. It's called Not a Genre Book Club. That one as well is still continuing. Julia and I are actually just finalizing our next live show for that, where we'll be discussing Queen of the Tiles by Hannah Alkoff. So I have different guests on, and we read and discuss middle grade or young adult books with the same kind of detail that classics tend to get. And I think that's good for me. So some quick content warnings before we get into the discussion. The book deals with sexism and kind of general prejudice, specifically around like empire. A lot of emotional cheating, and also in some parts of the book, there's a pretty heavy emphasis on grief. So just keep that in mind, take care of yourselves. And I also want to give a super short, super general note on some background that might be useful when reading or discussing this book. So a lot of the novel is about like sort of church politics, specifically in the Anglican church. And just for those who might not be aware, at this time, arguably some of that still happens today, there was a big like Anglican versus Catholic split. Like there were still some Catholic churches in England, but they were very much like the unpopular like stepchild, basically. And it was kind of funny or interesting because the Anglican beliefs and Catholic beliefs are almost identical in a lot of ways, but like the key differences they really cared about and emphasized, like the Catholic Church was seen as extremely decadent, and like that was considered very negatively from the like Protestant, I think like Puritan almost perspective, like seen as like being too focused on like ironically like earthly beauty and earthly like pleasures kind of thing. And obviously there's the technical aspect that Anglican churches allowed priests or vicars to marry, and they also allowed divorce, whereas in the Catholic Church you need an annulment. So that's just some background on why some of the conflict or dialogue happens the way it does, and the way that everybody talks about that one vicar going over to Rome as if he like died. Like, they're like, rest in peace, we will never speak his name again. Like and it's especially interesting because like the high church Anglicans, which is what our main character belongs to, like even the church services are extremely similar to Catholic church services. Like there was always this tightrope they were trying to walk of like, we want to have these like beautiful traditional like mass services, but we don't want to be too much like Rome, so like hold back on the incense kind of thing. So anyway, just a little note about that. I think that's it for the intro stuff. So let's jump in and start talking about A Glass of Blessings. I think Taylor and Julia, you guys both mentioned this is your first Barbara Pym novel. So like overall thoughts and impressions, how did you feel about the book?
Oh, you can go, Julia.
No, I started intros, so.
Okay, that's true. So I have never heard of Barbara Pym in my life. I've never heard of this book. And overall, I think it was a case of maybe I wasn't in the right headspace to read it. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it either. I think it got more interesting near the end, definitely.
Yeah.
Once like the storyline with Piers was like wrapping itself up, I was like, this is interesting. I like this. But like the first half was kind of a slog, and I did find myself picking up the audiobook to sort of really get into it. She's a great writer. I think it was just, as I said earlier, I'm very much in a space opera horror thing, and I'm like, no one is getting their heart ripped from their chest. So what's the point right now?
What am I doing here? Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I get that.
Yeah, but overall, I'm giving it a 2.753 out of 5 stars, because I do recognize that I'm probably being unfair because of the genre my mind is stuck in.
Yeah.
I think it really does show like where you are mentally with your genre right now, Taylor, because I truly thought you were going to be like living for the gossip and the mess of all of this.
Drama,
so
yeah.
I'm shocked. I thought you were gonna be like, yes, these people are so messy and don't like.
The thing is, emotional cheating isn't nearly as interesting as full-on cheating. I was like, commit to it.
Commit to the affair or I walk.
I don't condone cheating, but if you're going to do it, make it interesting.
Just do
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
it. Yeah, I also had never heard of Barbara Pym until you had told us about this book and selected it. So I was like, okay, we'll read it. But then like going on Goodreads, I was like surprised that a good number of people that I like follow on Goodreads have read this and other Barbara Pym books, and I was like, who is this author?
Yeah.
So, and actually, funny enough, before we've even before we started reading this one, I already had bought another Barbara Pym book at a bookstore because I was like, oh, look at this like cover, it's so colorful. And then I read the back and I was like, this sounds again messy. I was like, I'm into this. So I do have another one on my bookshelf now. But I was pleasantly surprised by it. It took me like a little bit to get into, but not as long as Taylor. I think like maybe like 15% before I was like, once I was like sitting down and like into the chapters and like actually had it like going, I would be like, this is like amusing, this is fun. I get why people compare it to like Emma a little bit.
Yes.
And that it's like the messy main character who's just kind of like in her own world. She's like, I see what's going on and I know everything. And it's like, girl, you don't know anything that's going on. Get it all, actually. But also I was rooting for Wilmette, and it's like, I don't know why. I don't know why I like you. You're dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gave it 3.8 stars. I liked it. And I was shook by the time, because I read it as an ebook. So I can see on Goodreads how many highlights I made as I was reading. You want to hazard a guess at how many highlights I made?
Like 300?
I'm going with 88. How many?
90.
Yes.
That's a lot of quotes, you guys.
Yeah.
And chunky quotes of the book. So I'm like, okay, clearly I liked what she was writing. So
yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what both you guys were saying. And it's interesting, Taylor, that you specifically mentioned it being like a right time sort of thing for the book, because I think it's the only other book I've read from Barbara Pym, but I've read it twice, and that's Excellent Women. And the first time I listened to the audio, and the audio was well done. It wasn't bad, but I was doing a lot of like packing up, moving, like just bummer, like exhausting and not a good time. And I had that, like I kept falling asleep while I was listening to it, like after, because I was exhausted. And I knew what had happened in the story, and I had the impression that like, yeah, I liked it well enough. But it wasn't until I reread it at a completely different frame of mind that I actually really enjoyed it, and I like wanted to continue reading books by Barbara Pym. So yeah, like I had kind of a similar experience. I think her work seems to be, from a very small sample size, it seems to be very much like if you're in the mood for it, it'll really hit that spot. But like it is very slice of life. It is very quiet, and yeah, there's a lot of like interpersonal stuff happening, but it's sort of subtle. It's definitely not a like plot centered kind of book. Yeah, and I also I liked Wilmette a lot, like in spite of myself, in spite of herself, and in spite of like everything. Like she should have been such an unpleasant protagonist, but like I cared about her a lot actually. And I also had seen a lot of comparisons with Emma, and I feel like Wilmette is a more successful version of that character for me. Because I don't know, there's something about the way that she thinks, and actually does happen for me with Emma a couple times in Jane Austen's novel. But there's like there's a lot of times where like Wilmette would do or say something where I'm like, oh my god, that's so awful. But I have had that exact thought before. like I would never like communicate that, or like, you know, some of the things that she, like some of the ways that she like thinks things or thinks about people, I'm like, I would never, I hope, do that. But it's like she does the awful things that are like intrusive thoughts for the rest of us, I guess. Yeah, Wilmette is kind of a mess, but like you said, Julia, she's convinced she's not, that she like, I see everything going on, I'm the one who can put the whole picture together, and it's like, no girl, no, that's not Pierce's colleague. Like, no.
I love
they're not work buddies, Wilmette. Like yeah. And also what you were saying, Julia, about having so many like quotes marked, I want to ask you guys what you felt about sort of the overall tone and writing style, because I had a similar experience. I have quite a few things that I marked, and like a really wide variety of quotes. Like I think of her writing as being very like clever and funny, and it is, but I also have some like really good quotes that are about like women in modern life, and like even like religious pluralism, and just like really interesting, thoughtful ideas, which also come to us through Wilmette primarily. So I think that gives her some added depth. So anyway, did you guys have any like specific observations about like the overall tone of the book, like it, you know, and how that, I guess, emphasizes the writings? Anyway, thoughts on tone and writing style. That's what I'm getting at.
Julia style question. I see.
Yeah, discuss. Here's a thought. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, I thought it was very like quietly funny. Like it's not like she's like shoving jokes in our face, but it's just like the little have either of you read Cranford perchance?
No, but I want to. I really want to.
Perhaps on our list. But
it's
it's very much that vibe where it's like just like, and I guess kind of what people say about Jane Austen too overall, but it's just like the observations of like people and the way we are, right? And like how those things are funny, because it's just like poking fun at people, and like we are funny in the things that we do every day. And like, noticing it. So yeah, you know, and just like Wilmette either like you said, saying things out loud or like thinking something in her head, and I'm like, yeah, like his face had that egg, and she's like, and his egg-shaped head. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, and one thing that I really appreciated about like the humor in the writing is like the specific ways that Barbara Pym describes the characters like reacting to these truly absurd situations, but the way that it happens feels so realistic. Like if this wacky thing did happen, I'm like, that is exactly how everyone would behave. Like I cannot tell you how funny I found that scene very close to the beginning where her husband has like his wine snob coworker over her and he is like so deeply committed, like the way he's talking about like pairing wines with like fruit, or I don't even know what it was, and like Wilmette is cracking up because she thinks he's kidding, and he's not, he's really serious. And there's that one line where he like her husband like asks him like, I suppose that's the best we could do, and he says, if you like, I could ask my own personal wine merchant. He is a man of considerable courage, even panache. And it's like, to describe somebody pairing wines as having like courage, it's just like Wilmette like lost it, and I kind of lost it too, and she like realized that nobody else was kidding, and like that's awkward. But it's like stuff like
the one who said that like learning Portuguese would be too difficult for women.
Yeah, it's like it's just like some of these situations were like hilarious, or like when she's talking to Mr. Basin about the Fabergé egg thing, but he keeps talking about like, I need to bring my husky in for a checkup, and she's like, your husky? And he's like, my car. And she's like, oh right. Like, like later she's like super awkward, she doesn't know what to say, and she's like, how's the husky? And he's like, it's great, thanks for asking. It's just so silly, but it's silly in ways that like we do all the time. I love it.
Yeah. I do love when Mary gets married to Marius, and the entire time, Wilmette is like, I'm so happy for my dumpy friend.
I know.
Thinking about that concept, and Wilmot's like, that sounds so silly. Mary. Like, just
Yeah.
it's so funny. Like, yeah.
Yeah, the fact like one of her first thoughts about the marriage is like it just doesn't sound good, but okay, like yeah. And to Wilmot's credit, like she has to hold herself back from asking I guess the Father Ransom, like, are you good enough for her though? Like, so even though she's like, I'm so happy for my dowdy dumpy friend, she's also like, she could do better, but I guess she's happy. So
She's her Harriet, you know, like she's her dowdy
Yes.
dumpy little friend who she truly cares about. Like she likes it.
Yeah.
in her very snobby, affectionate way, like yeah. Yeah. Also, I find it very funny how, like, throughout the whole book, like, woman like sitting in church or something, and she's like analyzing how hot the priests are. Like, that's like a major plot point. Actually, is like Father Ransom is way too young and sexy to be like staying with an unmarried woman, even if she is dumpy and dowdy. Like, and in a way, I guess she was right because they do end up getting married. Oh my gosh. Sometimes Wilmot is right, but not through any skill of her own, I guess.
She's right, but not nice about it sometimes.
Oh man, she really is not. She really is not.
Just so Emma of her, honestly.
Very
Yes.
Emma. Very Emma of her. And that actually leads perfectly into our character discussion questions. So let's obviously start with Wilmot. We've talked about her a bit already. She's a mess, but she's our mess is kind of the vibe I'm getting from all of us. But let's talk a little more in detail about her. Including like, do we have thoughts on why she still worked for us as a character? Like, there's a lot of reasons that readers in general, and us in particular, I think wouldn't like her, but we do somehow. So do you have any suggestions about why that could be?
I mean, part of it is that she's funny. That's
Yes.
the big thing. Like that,
Yeah.
if she weren't funny, or if she didn't make really funny observations, I think we would have very different opinions of her. But even
Yeah.
when she's like at her worst, like if she's being mean or contemplating having an affair, it's like, well, she's still funny about it.
Yeah.
At least make it entertaining, even if you're not going to have a full-on affair.
Yeah. If you're mean and not witty about it, it's like, well, what are we getting out of you? You know?
Right. Why follow you as a character? Yeah, that's a good point.
I do wonder, you know, if an affair had come to fruition, if like the readership in general would have different feelings about her, you know, like with any character, like if it was with Harry or something, you know, like I don't know. I feel like still things are weird and up in the air with Harry. Like, what is the situation there?
Yeah, and his wife
right?
doesn't seem too miffed about the whole thing.
Okay,
For a second, I was like, are we doing
cheering
a
them on.
swingers plot line or something? But I
Yeah.
guess not. I mean, I
It's-
like Wilmot's friendship with Rowena for the most part, but I feel like Rowena should have asked more questions about her husband taking her out to lunch.
Giving her that very romantic gift, like,
Yeah.
I wonder too if like Rowena, because I also really liked her and Wilmot's friendship, and I wonder if Rowena is almost like trying not to make a big deal out of it, and knowing that like probably it'll just kind of blow over if she doesn't make a thing about, which I kind of hate, because like she should be entitled to be upset, you know, to call her husband out
Yeah.
and her best friend out. I don't know, but I wonder if she's almost like, oh no, did I freeze? What happened? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I just wonder if she is almost like trying to head off it being a problem.
Yeah.
And also, it sounds like from some of the conversations that her and Wilmot had, it sounds like she has also done, like, you know, she's like, who doesn't contemplate an affair once in a while? Like,
His name in Italy. They're like,
what's that, Julia?
the one guy in Italy that they keep talking about. They're like, oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was funny.
What's Wilmot's husband's name?
Harry Howard.
Wilmot's husband is Rodney.
Oh wait,
Rowena's
I thought you asked Rowena's.
Rowena's is Harry, I think. Yeah.
It's been
Harry,
too long.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, because there is like the weird exchange where Wilmot's like, oh, but Rodney's so fond of you too, and then she's like, but not like Harry's fond of you, and I'm like, okay.
Are we not going to do anything about this?
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I was kind of like, this seems like more of a problem than you guys are acknowledging. I don't know. Like, I would not be cool with that.
Have you seen those TikToks where like a girl will post like, I love how my boyfriend and best friend fight like siblings, and they're like obviously flirting with each other, and everyone's like, oh honey, it's not like siblings. So I feel like Rowena's like that. Like, I love how my husband and my best friend flirt around, you know, just for funsies.
Yeah.
The whole time
Just
I'm
as
like,
a joke.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's an interesting point, Julia, about like if the affair had happened, would we feel differently? Because I do feel like part of what endears Wilmot to me is that like she wouldn't go through with these more, I guess, actively like hurtful things to people. Like, she's certainly snobby. She can be very catty in her head, and sometimes she'll say things to people, but I don't think she would want to hurt somebody in the way that like cheating would. And I think that maybe part of what also makes me like her more than I should is that we see these like moments with her that are like very heartfelt and profound. Like, there's that moment where her and Rowena, like, they just leave Pierce's workplace and they're talking to that like very unpleasant like receptionist, and Wilmot's sort of like first reaction is she's like, oh, she's so like ugly and annoying, and she like is judging us, and I hate that. But like as she's leaving, she's like thinking about like, well, what must her life be like? You know, like why, like what is it like to have to go to this job every day and to be like forced to answer annoying questions from people, like all this stuff. And then Rowena is like, oh, you were always like too, what'd she say, like too romantic or too naive about that or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, but I find that endearing. I find that one of Wilmot's best qualities. So I think that's part of it for me.
Yeah. I think what's also helpful is that Rodney also clearly was sort of bored in the marriage. They had a sort of pina colada song situation going on there. And I think if Rodney was 100% loyal the entire time and was so obviously, he wasn't not devoted to Wilmot, but you know, if he was a very doting husband, I think it would also change our opinion of Wilmot. But the fact that he's also sort of distant and having his own little side piece,
yeah,
I think that helps.
It almost feels like they're still married to each other out of habit.
Yeah.
And we see that maybe start to change a little bit by the end, but I agree. What were you going to say, Julia?
Well, I was going to add too, and I think it's funny that even though like part of these like musings of Wilmot is like kind of her boredom and like wondering of like, oh, like, am I so alluring, whatever, she also kind of has this weird like altruistic view of these potential affairs where she's like, well, it would be so good for them, like I would be bettering them to like to go along with this, so I guess I'll play into it.
Yes.
Trying to justify it to herself, like this is actually going to be a net positive.
Yeah, right. It's like, I'm going to brighten up this person's life so much. Yeah. Yep. And sort of related to our previous discussion of Wilmot, and this is such a in a way, weird question to ask, although maybe appropriate given how much the book talks about like doing good and being a good person. Would you categorize Wilmot, if you had to pick one or the other, as being on balance more of a good person or more of a bad person? Obviously, we can't like pass judgment on people, but if we were to do that.
I think she's a good person. I don't think she did any outright harm to anyone's life. I think, like, especially thinking about like the theft of the Fabergé egg and being like so dead set on like that's got to get back, you know, and
Yeah.
and then the like reveal of like, oh no, he knows he steals that and he like brings it back all the time. Like, that's
Loved
so
that
funny.
scene. Yeah, that and like it was such a fun and interesting way to give more characterization to Father Thames, I think it was, because like he and Father Bode were very much like background characters. Like Marius is the priest that we care about because he's young and handsome and all of this. But like I thought that was a really nice moment of like, oh, like that's actually like a very selfless way to view like he's like, well, what good is having beautiful things if I keep them to myself? And I'm like, what a man. Like, wow.
Yeah.
He's so right, actually.
Yeah, I'm like, you make a good point, actually. Yeah, Taylor, do you want to answer before I share my thoughts?
Yeah, so what this reminds me of, and I actually just Googled it because I didn't want to make a fool of myself, but I think it's from the Sense and Sensibility movie. But the line, it isn't what we say or think that defines us, but what we do. And a lot of Wilmot's thoughts can be kind of catty or mean, but at the end of the day, she tends to be a mostly like, her actions tend to be mostly moral. Like, you know, even, you know, she has Keith over, even though she's like, he's kind of boring, but I'm going to entertain him because let's do this show of goodwill. And, you know, she's very, you know, proud of her dumpy friend getting married. She's
like, look at my ugly friend doing so well for herself.
And it's clearly a very like safe person for Mary after she leaves the convent. So I would say, would I say she's a wholly good person? No, but I think she's very much a human person. That sort of discrepancy between what she's thinking and what she's doing, I think really works for her character.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. Like, I definitely feel like she obviously has prominent flaws. But I feel like even with her like selfishness and like snobbiness, I feel like most of the time it's not like malicious. Like it is like she is so self-centered, but it's not because she thinks she's better than everyone else. I feel like it's because she just honestly is so stuck in her own head. Like there does seem to be some acknowledgement, like when she's imagining about that receptionist, like she does seem to understand that like other people can also have this like vivid internal life, you know. I mean, she's kind of shocked when Rodney does, but like she's learning, you know, she's learning that other people have thoughts and passions. Yeah, so I also agree with what you guys were saying about like her actions tend to be much better than like her thoughts. And I really agree with that. I think that obviously the way that you think about people, it does reflect, like I'm not saying it doesn't matter, like it does reflect on kind of like who you are or what you value in people. I don't think it is the most important thing. Like if you have like a mean thought, but you don't act on it, you like go out of your way to behave better than that, I think that is an indicator that you are maybe a better person. Like and I coming back to the fact that Wilmot has this like really deep well of like compassion for other people, and like, oh yes, a lot of times it comes through in her like just being so in her own little world that she's like, what do you mean poor people exist? Like, kind of but she does care, and she even does do some of these like volunteer work kind of thing. Like she's like always grumbling about it like in her head, but she does do it. And even though she's like thinking about like, I must look so beautiful and virtuous right now, it's like she is still doing good. So yeah, that was very rambly, but like I agree. I personally feel like she is a basically good person who has a lot of work to do on herself.
Yeah. I mean, I think it really proves how I think of her as a person when Piers was being like really rude to her for like
Such an
no
asshole.
reason. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, that's unfair. She is a snob, but she doesn't deserve all of this.
Yeah.
Like you said, she wasn't capable of love or something.
Yes. And then when she's talking to Keith about it later, and like poor Keith, he doesn't. Yeah, he shared too much, I guess, when he was like, he doesn't really think you're unlovable, and I'm like, what? That's such a horrible thing.
And Wilmot was like, I didn't think he said that, but now I'm like,
thanks for letting me know. Like, yeah, I agree. I think it's a really good comparison, Taylor, because it's like, you know, Wilmot certainly has her moments of being like unlikable or not a nice person, but then you see like that conversation with Piers, and you're like, oh wait, like actually, she's not that bad. Lay off, like, yeah. All right, and another seamless segue. Thank you, Taylor. Let's talk about Piers, because he is sort of like, he's an interesting character because he's not actually in that many scenes considering how important he is. It's more like everybody's always talking about Piers and like, where is he? What is he doing? Where does he live? Why does he not tell anyone anything? He just sort of pops up, badly teaches some Portuguese for a while, and then like disappears until Wilmot has another like run-in with him. Okay, so first off, just like overall thoughts on his character. What do we think about him? Like, dislike? Did we, like, regardless of how we felt about him, did we like his interactions with Wilmot? Like, did we think that was interesting?
He's a piece of work.
Yeah, I was sort of like interested in him as sort of a roguish figure, but there's like one scene where he's like, there's no such thing as a smart and pretty woman. And I was like, well, I don't know about that.
Okay, buddy. Yeah.
And that just sort of turned me against him because I was like, I wanted roguish, not misogynistic.
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
yeah.
I like the sort of twist that he's gay and that's why like he hasn't settled down and so on. And I like his relationship with Keith, but he's just sort of mean to Wilmot a lot of the time for no reason.
Yeah, I agree. What's that, Julia?
And do we like his relationship with Keith?
Oh, you're breaking up,
Keith
Julia.
Is just his housekeeper.
I know, like, and the thing that gets so like Keith, what a treasure! Like
I love Keith.
Like, he's such a sweetie, and he's like, he is making Piers live so much better than he deserves, honestly. But like the way, like Piers is even an asshole about that. He's like, oh my god, he won't leave me alone. He keeps cleaning my house, and I'm like, shut up! Like,
He makes me ungrateful. He does my laundry. He makes my bed. Ugh.
I know, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I feel like Piers was an interesting like character idea. Like I feel like his interactions with Wilmot and his sort of general characterization, it really, oh no, am I breaking up as well? Thanks, computer.
Okay. I think you're fine for now.
Okay, good. I think like his characterization and his interactions with Wilmot, I feel like really encapsulated the character type or like the person even, where it's like somebody that you kind of have a crush on and you realize you're making them more interesting or appealing than they are, you know, but you're sort of just like fantasizing about them. And like I feel like that aspect of Piers' character really worked, especially because we were reading from Wilmot's perspective and seeing all of the like fantasy sort of scenarios and all of that. So from like a technical standpoint, I think he was pretty well written. But yeah, he is like a pretty unpleasant person. Like he is also like funny in the way that he's nasty, but I don't feel like he has Wilmot's like good heart underneath it, maybe. And obviously we're only seeing like a very small slice of his personality and his interactions. and also, you know, not to discount how hard it would be on somebody to be a closeted gay man in this time period and in this situation. But I also think like that struggling with things, it doesn't mean that you can just be an asshole to everyone. You know, that you're not responsible for your choices or your actions. Yeah, I don't know. Like I obviously can't speak to that aspect of like what it must have been like for him. So it probably is reasonable that that would make him kind of a misanthrope, you know? Like I'm sure he did have lots of experiences that, like enabled that feeling. Um but yeah, it's just I guess like where I keep ending up is like, yes, your circumstances have a big effect on who you are, and I think that they can be mitigating factors, but also humans have free will. Like we are capable of like choosing what we do and how we treat people.
And I think like as a counter, Keith comes from a poorer background and is also a gay man living in the 50s, and he's a very kind, sort of boring. One of my favorite parts is when he's like giving the story of his life to Wilmot, and Wilmot's like trying not to fall asleep, so she's focusing on how handsome he is.
She's like, wow, you have like nothing going on up there. Like
but like Keith is a very good person and very kind to like the people around him, and he's the one who usually apologizes for Pierce on his
I
sake.
know.
So I understand why someone might be misanthropic, but when you have another character like Keith who's living in a very similar, if not like more dire situation,
yeah,
like I don't know, I feel like the excuse to be misogynistic and then just straight up mean.
yeah, it's kind of like one of the discussions that is happening a lot still in modern times about how like being marginalized doesn't it's not like a free pass to mistreat other people, particularly people who are also from, you know, less privileged groups. Like yeah, I agree. What were you going to say, Julia?
Maybe I would have more.
Julia, you're very quiet. I don't know if it's the volume on your computer or something.
I don't know.
Okay, that's a little better.
Okay. I'll sit closer. Oh, you know what? I got a little microphone. I could be using that. Dang it.
Ooh.
Listen, I literally, this is not the time for a story. I did a survey. I won a $200 Amazon gift card. I went nuts on Prime Day. I was like, ring light, microphone. Anyway, I should be wearing that. What I'm saying is, I would be more sympathetic, I think, to Pierce if I like understood him. I think like I don't feel like I understand like why he even like interacts with Wilmot. I don't feel like do you want to be her friend? Like I feel like I literally don't even get like he'll ring her up and be like, come over right now, and I'm like, why? For what?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like even getting a glimpse of, like you said, like why he's pursuing a friendship with Wilmot. Like, because if purely like a sort of a smokescreen, like if he's hanging out with a very attractive woman and sort of implying they might be having an affair, like yes, that's safer for him and Keith. But we don't even really get we don't get anything about if that is what's happening or if he has feelings about that. Like maybe I don't know, maybe he feels guilty for using Wilmot like that. And so that sort of makes him nastier to her because he's like mad at himself. Like we don't really get any information about the way Pierce is like thinking and feeling. And that's like a function of like the point of view of the story. So that makes sense. But like Barbara Pym is a very good writer, I feel. So I think it was intentional that we don't get that with Pierce, which is interesting to me, you know, that like I guess that kind of makes sense for like his character being like from Wilmot's point of view, all of her like feelings and thoughts about him are about like her idea of him, like the idealized version of him being like this handsome, charming rogue and like, all of that, and kind of giving her some excitement in her life. But she doesn't really know anything about him. We don't either. So,
but in the end, it's like so confusing because we're like, and you did all that for what? Like, I genuinely don't understand. Like, did you want to be her friend? You don't act like her friend. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. Also, how clear, and I know we can't speak for like when the book was published, like how people would have felt or picked up on it, but how clear do you feel like Pier's sexuality is? Because I know when I was introducing the book, I mentioned that because that was something I knew about the story and I thought that was interesting. Like that was actually one of the main reasons that I picked this book by Barbara Pym to discuss, because I had heard that it was unusual in the way that it portrayed a gay man as a character, and that it wasn't as like negative about it as a lot of other books of the time would have been. So how clear do we feel like Pier's sexuality is? And I know it's hard to say because I basically gave you the answer before we started reading the book. But.
I mean, for me, it was also spoiled for me. I like read the Wikipedia before I started the book, and I saw that there was like a character was gay, and so once that popped up, I was like, I know what this is.
Yeah. Like Wilmot, they are not colleagues. They're not roommates. Like,
Oh my God, they were roommates.
they were. I know. I kept thinking that. I kept thinking about that. And even little things like the when Wilmot is like, oh, I finally get to see his flat, and like that offhand comment about how like Keith's room doesn't even look lived in, and I'm like, there could be a reason for that. Like, and Wilmot's like, okay.
I mean, I will say, as a reader in the year of our Lord 2026, I feel like until we were there in the flat, like I did not feel like it was explicit, like
Right.
this is a man in a gay relationship. And then we were there and I was like, and here it is. Here are the gay men. Congratulations, fellas. But you know, like it's not like she says it on page, but I do feel like as you just said that like it's not, was it in the Wikipedia, Taylor? That it wasn't like portrayed, or Kara, did you say? I don't, who just said that it was portrayed in a different way than it would have been?
Yeah, I mentioned that being sort of what I had heard about the book.
That's true. That, yeah, it's like, you know, even though it's not like declared on page, it's like, and here's our homosexual friends, right? Like that even though like here they are and it's like low-key, high-key apparent, that like everyone who knows them in the story like still likes them, still hangs out with them, they're still coming over to our house, you know, our like relations, because he's Rowena's brother, is that correct?
Yes, Piers is Rowena's brother.
Yeah, like, you know, they still have like their relationship. I mean, it's like kind of rocky just because she's like, this is my asshole brother, but this is my troubled brother. It's not because he's gay, it's just because he's an asshole.
Exactly. She's like, I'm not homophobic, he's just a dick. Like,
I'm asshole phobic, it's different, you know, he's just a dick. So, you know, like that's not like she disowned him or anything. It's like, here's my brother, he's in town. So like, that's cool. And I like that.
Yeah. And even the fact that, like, because I also think that it's not glaringly obvious from the beginning. And I think that's obviously realistic. It's like, he wouldn't be walking around making it very obvious that he's living with a man, you know, like that's just not something that people would do. So I think that him having that sort of like plausible deniability almost, I think that makes sense. And then as you were saying, Julia, like the way that the other characters interact with him and Keith is very interesting, because it's like he is just a part of their social circle. And even if some of them maybe don't know, or like, I don't know, I'd be very interested to know, like, if when Barbara Pym was writing this, who she had in mind as like the people who definitely knew that Piers was gay versus people who didn't, or who maybe like had an inkling but like were lying to themselves or something. But even with even with all of that, like, let's say that none of the characters who are still hanging out with him actually know. It's still about the way the book is written and the way that the reader is introduced to these characters and made to feel about them. And I think that is pretty impressive, you know, that it's like, regardless of whether Wilmot has figured it out by the end, the way that this, sorry, my camera keeps doing weird things. The way that the writing of the book talks about these characters is definitely more understanding than I think a lot of other portrayals of this time would be. And I think that in itself is cool and interesting, like, to read. Yeah. And I do kind of wonder, like, Wilmot seems like she doesn't get it, you know, but I wonder, because there's a couple little things at the end. Like, there's one moment where she's like thinking back to herself at, like, wow, like, all these things that have happened with these relationships and these people I know. And the ones that she lists are Sybil and Arnold, the professor that she marries, Mary and Marius getting married, and Keith and Piers. So she lists them with two other romantic couples, which I find fascinating. Like, so is she almost like figuring it out without thinking about it, without realizing she is? I don't know. I have questions, but
I sort of thought she picked up on it like during the tour of the apartment. Like, that's when it clicked for her, because I think that's also part of why Piers wanted her to see his place. Like, this is the best way I can explain to you without coming out and explaining to you.
Right.
Like,
right.
what's
And
going
if you
on here.
Yeah, and if like she were to, you know, report him or try to get him in trouble, he could still deny it because he didn't come out and say it. But
yeah. Actually, I'm curious, was it still illegal at this time to be gay?
That's a good question. Let me do a quick Google.
That is a good question. I do think it's, as you're Googling, I do think it is kind of funny that, like, rather than like any sort of taboo about like their relationship in the social circle, it's like, oh, we can't tell Rodney that Keith models in the knitting catalog.
That cracked me up. You know, he's a dirty knitting catalog model. Disgusting.
I know. And I thought that was so interesting, and like, what sharp commentary when Wilma and Rowena are talking about how both of their husbands would, like, you know, judge Keith for this. But it's like, even working at a coffee bar would normally be like that. But Harry has a friend now who has done that. So therefore it is acceptable. And it's like, that is exactly how it goes, is like, there's a certain kind of person where it's like something is like trashy or inappropriate until they know a person who has done it, and then it is fine, and it has always been fine. Like,
I also like our husbands aren't homophobic; they're just classist.
Yes, really, really. Okay, let me look up in the UK. It wasn't okay. Sexuality was not decriminalized in England until 1967.
Whoa.
So, in the time this book was set, I think it still would have been illegal. I think, because it is post-war period. I don't remember if it's 50s or 60s, but it's likely that it would have been before 67. So,
well, yeah, because I think it was published in the 50s. So,
yeah, 58, okay. I think.
I don't think she was writing about the future.
Yeah.
That is interesting then. I thought it had already been decriminalized at this point, but I think that adds another layer to like the significance of including both Piers and Keith, not just as like, here are some gay people, have fun, like as characters with like personalities and flaws, and you know, they have their jobs and their interests.
Yeah.
I love the scene where Keith like is checking Wilmot's curtains to make sure they have a lining, and he's like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. And I also like that because we have two gay characters, it's like, even though in some ways Keith may be a little stereotypical about he's the gay man who has excellent taste kind of thing, because we have him contrasted with Piers, it feels more like this is just a Keith thing, you know, rather than like all gay men have perfect like color palette knowledge and everything. Yeah.
But that probably also is a sort of shorthand as well for for Barbara Pym. Like, how can I get this across without saying it? And I feel like there has to be some reliance on stereotypes, at least back then, to sort of get it across to people.
Right. Yeah, it's like that. Maybe for the reading audience at the time, it would have been like, he models in knitting magazines, does he? Like, works at a coffee bar.
At first, when I was like listening to the audiobook and everyone was so scandalized about him modeling in knitting magazines for a full like 2 minutes, I thought it was maybe a euphemism for something. And then I was like, oh no, they're just weird about this.
Was it like a nude knitting magazine? Like, what is
this? Which is an even funnier concept.
It is no pants.
Yeah, exactly.
Beanie, nothing.
Yeah. Or like knitted like lingerie or something.
You know, a little something for the ladies.
Yeah. For when you live in Siberia, but you also don't care about frostbite. Like, it's
a little knitted G-string that Keith's got on.
Oh my god. Yeah, that is like really the way that like people were talking about what he was doing, and the fact that it's just like a regular knitting magazine is very funny. Okay, so if we have any other thoughts on Piers, we can come back, of course, but since we already started talking about Keith, let's go to him next. I think we from what we've discussed, we all seem to like him. He's a sweetie pie. Yeah, I think it's like interesting. Wilmot is basically like, I adopted him, he's mine now. But she's also still kind of horrible in her head about like, he's very stupid and not interesting at all, but he's nice to look at, and I feel protective of him. It's like, and she's still such a snob about like his common voice and accent and everything. But so it's like, I love that Keith and Wilmot are friends, but very much like with Emma and Harriet, I'm like, you still could have been nicer to him at the end, though.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, at least Wilmot doesn't do the Emma thing of like, and I should have left her in the gutter where I found her, because I hate that, and I love that every movie adaptation ever changes that. Because it just doesn't hit well. But
I'm sure it hit in 1820 something, but now
like, you're sure like a lot of the readers were like, it's true, you should have left her there. I had a gutter friend once
queen.
Yeah. So other thoughts on Keith?
I love him. We stand a boring type A person.
Yeah, and it's like when he's like talking, he's like going in depth in these like stories or his like life history or whatever, and like Wilmot is like, oh my gosh, it's so boring, and I'm like, okay, listen, everybody has boring stories sometimes, and sometimes you're in it too far, and you're like, I'm even bored, but I gotta finish. Like,
and the fact that she's disgusted by the most interesting like thing about him, which is that he's a model, I'm like, what is he gonna talk about? Because I think that's a cool career.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like, that was really, we're in this section of characters now where it's rather than specific questions, it's just like, let's talk about them. So any other thoughts on Keith before we move on? But yeah, sweet little bean. I love him. I also found like, just again with the sort of like situational reaction humor of like, as he's leaving the tea party, he just like casually drops to Wilmot that he doesn't believe in God, and he's like, but thank you for the lovely tea, okay, bye. That's his exit. Is like, what a wild combination of statements. Like,
I'm dying,
and Sybil walks in and she's like, who's that man who doesn't believe in God?
Yeah.
What of that people? Who's that guy? That's one of the parts I highlighted. That's so funny.
It was like, and Wilmot, like, she just, it's like, truly, how do you respond? And that is like, immediately he goes from that into like, thank you for the lovely tea, okay, bye. And she's just like, all right, I guess. Like, and Sybil is like, we were discussing if you were trying to convert him, and we were sad that you didn't succeed, or something. That's not what was happening at all. He just dropped that bomb and left. Oh, Keith. Oh, Keith. Okay. Speaking of Sybil, I'm gonna lead with, I really liked her. I thought she was such a fun character, and what a nice contrast to like the stereotypical mother-in-law sort of thing. Like, I love that her and Wilmot get along so well, even though they're very different people. I thought it was very interesting and very cool that like she, I think, is an example of how, even though the book is very like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's sort of like self-contained in like it stays in its lane with like its class and everything, and it doesn't try to do too much outside. It doesn't try to make huge sweeping statements about like treating people better, blah blah blah. Not that books have to do that all the time, and I think a lot of times it's more effective when they don't. But I thought it was very interesting that Sybil's character is a great example of the sort of religious like acceptance and pluralism that the book like low-key champions in ways that I think is really cool and really impressive. And I also love that like the characterization of the characters who are religious or who aren't, it's never like one side is never seen as more positive than the other by the writing or the book or anything. And I think even in modern books that is sometimes rare. And so that's just something that really stood out to me with the book and with Sybil's character especially. And there's also the fact that she does all of those good works, you know, like she's like constantly donating things to churches and volunteering at churches. And even though she is not a religious person whatsoever, she's like walking the walk. And I thought that was very cool because that is supposed to be the most important thing about being considered a good person by religious standards. It's not what you believe, it's what you do. So anyway, this was me just talking about Sybil, but I do want to know what you guys
Oh,
think.
I love
now that
Sybil.
Yeah.
Yeah, having listened to the audiobook, I don't have a lot of questions or quotes written down. I went back to tag a quote by Sybil because I was like, this woman, I love her and I want to be her.
She's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've been waiting for Sybil's name to come up because love her. It's interesting because I felt like, I don't know, for some reason I thought at first that maybe there was like some kind of shade going on between her and Wilmot because like when Wilmot was first going to see Piers, and she was like, oh yeah, it'll be a great opportunity for you to practice your Portuguese. I thought she was being like, yeah, it'll be a great opportunity for you to practice your Portuguese. Like she was like on to her. And I was like, Sybil. But I was like, no, she legitimately meant like, go practice your Portuguese. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
No, she's great. Love her. I'm sure I have many Sybil highlights.
She was very good on calling out like a lot of the misogyny too, or at least joking about it in a way that like highlights it.
Like several of the quotes that I'm like, okay, like subversive. I think that's the word I was trying to think of earlier, where like the book is not, it doesn't like shout about being subversive, but there's a lot of subtle ways that I think it is, and I like that. I think that's very cool, and I think that's very appropriate for a book that is so centered on like women's stories and experiences. Yeah. Anyway, what was like?
I love too that Rodney and Wilmot like live with her and it's all good and well. And then as soon as she gets engaged, she's like, and by the way, can't wait for you guys to buy a house. And they're like,
we're kicking you out. Like,
and she's like, no, really.
Yeah. And Rodney
Wilmot was like, oh wow, it's gonna be weird with all of us living under one roof. I'm like, girl.
No.
Rodney is like inconsolable about it because he's like, my commute, like what am I going to do? And Wilmot
very
is, like,
real of him, honestly.
Yeah, truly, like especially because they live in London, right? So like it would be miserable having to like figure out a new way to get somewhere. Yeah. Okay, so I know we have a bit of an earlier cutoff because of some schedule things, so I want to make sure we hit my theme questions. But there are a few other supporting characters I had on the list if we wanted to talk about them maybe at the end if there's time. But if we have strong feelings, if we're like, I need to say this thing about this character now, let's do that. Rodney, Mary, Marius, and Rowena. We kind of talked about some of them already, but any like burning need to talk about them before we head into some theme questions?
I just want to say, because I was thinking about it when we were talking about if Wilmot is a good person or not, because Mary's obviously a good person. That like if this exact story were told through Mary's point of view, I think it would still be an interesting story because obviously the plot has like interesting plot points, but this book would not be as good.
It wouldn't be as funny for one. Yeah. And maybe I think there maybe is something to be said for a main character not just having flaws, but like relatable flaws, you know? Because it's not like I don't think Mary is like so obnoxiously perfect that it's like, you know, I hate following her, or that she's completely uninteresting to read about, because she still feels like a human person. But like Wilmot having those like some of the specific like sarcastic thoughts she has, I'm like, that is so mean, but also I probably would have had that thought, you know, like about somebody, or especially if it's somebody who's like being rude to her or something. So I agree. I think that would be a really interesting like perspective for the book. And just seeing Wilmot from Mary's perspective, I think would be very cool. But I don't know that it would be as interesting or funny or effective. Yeah, I guess you need a little bit of mess for this story to really work. Okay, so my theme questions. I think we talked about some of these already. So really quick, I wanted to ask you guys, how did you feel about the like overall tone and humor of the story affecting the way it engaged with these social issues like LGBT plus community, women and women's place, and also like religious differences are kind of the three main ones I thought of. So how did you guys feel about the way that meshed or didn't mesh with the humor and the writing style?
So, unless you want to go first, Julia.
Oh, I'm still pondering 2/3 of that question, so go ahead.
I mean, I feel like it meshed really well, specifically with the gender aspect of it. Sybil is a really great like person to sort of bounce off these misogynistic statements made by men, or her saying like, oh, women weren't allowed to do this, but it's probably because men were jealous of us or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a very fun way to approach it, because early on, like my first 2 of 4 tabs, you know, she talks about, you know, or Wilmot says she tries to sound warm and feminine. So like there's a little bit of an element early on in the beginning of like gender as a like performance. But I thought the humor added to it made it feel, not to say less preachy, but more like they're commenting on it, they're making a joke of it, but also this is something that, you know, happens day to day. I just started rambling at some point. So
no.
Julia,
like,
please step in.
You didn't. I totally get what you mean. And it's like, that is how it works in real life too, is like, you know, when we're hanging out and we're talking about some like nonsense in the world, it's like, we do joke about it. It doesn't mean that we don't care or that it's not serious. It's just like, man, this is such a part of our life that we kind of have to make it part of our humor as well. So it feels realistic for it to be told through humor like that.
There's a quote that I know for a fact I've highlighted pretty early on in the book, where Wilmot, I say, is probably talking to Rowena, and I don't even know what she's saying, but she's like, da 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 da. Oh, and here come the men. So now we're gonna have to change what we're talking about because blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, and she like makes the point of like saying in the conversation, like, and now we'll have to talk about this because the men are coming back. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's a reversal of that stereotype of like, oh, can't have serious conversations with the women around. They just want to talk about dresses and things, like, and they're like, oh man, all right, no more important talk. Here come the boys, like kind of thing. Yeah, I agree. I think that the humor is especially well suited to the commentary on gender. And I think it being such a it being so subtle in the way that it's done, I think, like you said, Taylor, it makes it more pleasant to read it as commentary. Like, it's not preachy because it's like it's making the point it needs to, but it's also funny. And I also think that there is something to be said for commentary that is about how normal something is. Like, kind of, we were talking about with Pierce and Keith. Like, the book does not at any point make a big production about them being gay and about the need to treat people well regardless. But because it is so normalized, I feel like it sort of does that anyway, you know? Like, it feels like that's one of the intentions of the book being so light and slice of life, is that it's like almost without noticing, you know, maybe somebody was reading it who doesn't know any gay people or doesn't think they do, and it's like almost without realizing it, they're sort of being open to the possibility of like they're just people like anyone else. And I think that's something that this kind of story can do really well. Like, it's important to have really obvious commentary as well, of course, but I think it's also valuable to have stories like this that don't make a big deal out of it. And I think that goes along with like the light writing style and humor too. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? I also wanted to hit briefly on like the way that religion is used and talked about in this book is fascinating to me. And this tends to be like, I've only read one other book by this author, but from what I've read about her, this is like a consistent theme in her work of like, it's just very like everyday drama that anybody has, but it's like church politics and stuff. And I wanted to talk about that because I think it's really interesting, like kind of what we were saying about with gender, where the like different people having different beliefs is treated as so normal that it's like almost a sneaky commentary. And we also have this very interesting contrast of imagery with there's like Protestant versus Catholic, but there's also like pagan. Like, there's a couple of moments where like Wilmot is thinking about how beautiful and pagan something looks, and like there's that really cool moment where that priest is like leading the bees to the new hive, and like Wilmot has that really thoughtful comparison about like how perfect and how interesting that this very old world moment is something that this older priest knows how to do. Like, I don't know if any of that is making sense. Like, I find those different symbols and different like motifs very interesting, and I wanted to know what you guys thought. This is another like, here is a thought and my feelings, and let's talk.
Yes. Agreed. I don't know if I have big thoughts, but I do agree. I'm trying to like skim through my highlights and see if I have anything to back up your thesis here.
Yeah, I would say you put a lot more thought into the religious aspect of it, but I did like all of the joking about Roman Catholics. For some reason. It was very amusing. And they were like, oh, you know, Roman Catholics are very ostentatious. And I was like, I do love a good statue, so I get it.
Right? You know, it's like, I mean, I cannot deny, I love some gilding. I love a gorgeous fresco, you know, I am only human. Yeah, and I thought it's also very interesting that even though the main character and like the majority of the characters we follow, it's like they're obviously Anglican. And so they are like not in favor of like the Church of Rome and everything. I still feel like the way that things are written, the author is like communicating that these opinions are not necessarily her own. Like there's like a lot of times actually where Wilmot is like, yeah, I know I'm not supposed to like the incense and everything because it's too much like Roman Catholic. She's like, but it does really give the atmosphere, kind of thing. So I thought that was very cool and interesting. But yeah, it was funny, like that they were just like the way they were talking about like Edward Sainsbury or whoever, where it's like he died. They're like, he went off to Rome. It's like it's a terrible thing to witness, kind of thing. Like, especially because the practices were so similar. Like,
it's functionally the same church. It's very, very funny. Is.
Yeah, there's like a couple of technicalities, and that's not to like discount those mattering, but they were acting like he has abandoned them forever, and it's like that's not how that works. Like,
yeah. I will say, having read Matthew Lewis's The Monk, which is English like anti-Catholic propaganda,
yes,
this is a very subtle, like any sort of talk about the Catholic Church is it's much more measured. I don't know if you've ever read The Monk, but
I know about
sees a boob once and gives up the Catholic Church and immediately sells his soul to Satan.
Yeah,
it's a really funny book.
Yeah. Yep. I have not read it, but I know of it. And this Barbara Pym definitely is one of the most reasonable like I don't even know if it counts as a critique in some ways, because it's more just like she's showing us these characters who are very much on one side. She's like, but we don't hate the other ones. Like I think so. They do have good statues. What can we say?
Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. And that actually goes really well with my other big theme question, which is like the motif of beauty in like objects and people, I think is very interesting, because there's a lot of discussion of characters who are like good looking and whether or not there's anything more to them. Like Wilmot is somebody who I think people could maybe judge as being like vapid or shallow because she is so attractive. And also I love that she is like fully conscious of herself being attractive and she likes dressing nice. I'm like, good for you, girl. So I think a lot of people would underestimate how smart she is or how like thoughtful she can be. But it's interesting because Wilmot also does that to Keith. She's like, he's very pretty, but he has nothing going on up top, like kind of thing. And it's like, she doesn't know that. And it's also, again, her classism, because she's like, he's got that common accent that doesn't communicate anything. So, yeah, I guess my question about the way that beauty is portrayed is just kind of like, how do we feel, how prominent do you think that motif or theme was in the story? And do you feel like the book was like trying to say anything about that, or if it was more just something it was like playing with or highlighting?
Juliet, I believe it's your turn to start the conversation.
I tried really hard this time to do a real question. I hope.
No, you're getting me good, because I was highlighting up a storm, but I was not thinking about themes while I was reading this one for once. Not thinking about themes at all. I think it was just like, what was the latter thing you said?
Good question. What did I just say? just about like if we think the book was trying to say something about beauty, or if it was more just like an idea that it brought up a few times. Like was there like a message? I guess. So let me share my thoughts.
Okay.
Um, so I feel like there is sort of the straightforward, like, don't judge someone by their looks kind of thing, because we also see that with Piers, where he's like got that interesting kind of like roguish good looks, but he's like kind of a dick. So there's that. And then there's the characters who are very conventionally attractive, like Wilmot or Keith, but people maybe judge them based on that, including Wilmot. But I also thought it was really interesting the way that the beauty of like art and objects and like nature and scenery and especially as how it connects to religion, I thought was very interesting, because again, one of the big criticisms of the Roman Catholic Church from the Anglicans was that it was too decadent. It was like too focused on like earthly beauty, and like they had, you know, like saint icons everywhere, and there was like gilding, there was like gorgeous art, you know, like the Renaissance, like maximalist sort of thing. And Anglicans didn't like that. They thought it like distracted from what should be important in church. Whereas, and I can understand that reasoning. And Catholic perspective was more like beauty is part of living on earth, and that is part of what we are thankful for. And so I thought it was very interesting that Wilmot specifically, she is very much interested in like beautiful things. Like she immediately knows what the Fabergé egg is when other people don't. And even though she kind of like low-key judges Father Thames for having like this hoard of beautiful objects, she's like, you're a priest, you should be better than that. It's interesting that Wilmot she seems to be much more in line with the Catholic ideology of like beauty is a part of living, and celebrating that is a good thing. Yeah, I don't know. Those are just some of my rambly thoughts on that. Like, I don't know if that even answered my own question. It was just like things I was considering.
So if you know, assuming Barbara Pym's awareness of this because she wrote this book, we could infer maybe that that's sort of her. I lost my own train of thought. So it's like a little bit of commentary, because we know Wilmot is flawed anyways. So it's like, you know, our good characters are a little more plain and simple and, you know, less vain about things. Our characters like Wilmot, who are leaning more into the beautiful things and the visually pleasant things of the world, are also ones that can maybe get too wrapped up in those things and get carried away. So maybe there's something to glean from that.
Kind of like a happy medium sort of thing. And also, even like Wilmot's inconsistency about it, I think could be interpreted as commentary, where it's like we still sort of separate, like even that comment about women can't be smart and pretty kind of thing, like it's so stupid, and yet that is still a stereotype that haunts modern society. And so like I think maybe that could also be Wilmot's inconsistency, could kind of be commentary too, because it's like even when we know that like beauty and intelligence or like value or anything like that, those don't have to be mutually exclusive, we sometimes still act like they are. And even the way that she, like Wilmot obviously values the role of art in like kind of elevating like an experience, you know, like with her, like we see that with the way that she reacts to like different beautiful things in like church services, and also again that like moment with the bees in the garden and everything. So she seems very like in tune with how beauty can really like profoundly affect an experience, which I think is cool. I like that. But even Wilmot, like she still falls back into the stereotype, the patterns of like, well, Father Thames should be above that. He shouldn't have like a Fabergé egg. He shouldn't have all of these like gorgeous things, because like priests and religious people are supposed to be like ascetic, you know, they're supposed to have just like the bare minimum and all of that. And I thought that was very interesting as well. I don't know if I had a point with that either. I was kind of just talking. Um,
Oh, I thought that was a very good
I know what you
point.
were saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
thank you. um, yeah, I think those are my big theme questions. Let's see. Anything else about beauty or like the discussion of religion? I guess something like to kind of tie a lot of our discussions together. One thing I kept thinking about while reading this book was the importance of being earnest by Oscar Wilde.
Oh,
because,
that's a good comparison.
yeah. So I love me some Oscar Wilde, of course, but also I think that play of his is so interesting because the way he even like talked about it or wrote about it, or the way that the play itself reads or is performed, it's like completely lighthearted, silly, madcap, like brilliant dialogue, but kind of like stereotypically, it's like not about anything, you know? Like his other plays and some of his other works are incredibly sharp commentary on like gender and like relationships and yeah, like a lot of different things. And then the importance of being earnest in a way can kind of be odd one out because it's like a fluffy comedy. I love it, but it's not, it doesn't seem to have the thematic depth that his other works do. And I kept thinking about that while reading this book because something I personally feel about importance of being earnest is that the fact that it has no commentary is itself commentary, because like he was satirizing like wealthy high class people, like truly ridiculous like naming conventions and the way that inheritance works and the things that they consider important in life. And it's just a silly comedy, but because it's just a silly comedy, that sort of is saying something about the wealthy snobs that he was criticizing. And so that's kind of what I was thinking about with A Glass of Blessings, is that even though it doesn't have as much obvious commentary as some other books that we have read and discussed, I think the fact that it is so slice of life and normalized, the way that it includes gay characters in very normal ways, the way that it shows that religious people also have like drama and personal problems, and that doesn't negate the more like profound moments you can have, that you're also human, like all of those things together. I think like this book being so ordinary is part of what makes it effective. And yeah, so do you guys agree with that? That was sort of just a little manifesto for me on that, but
No, I
I've been
absolutely
thinking
agree.
a lot.
And I love the comparison to the importance of being earnest. That is something I never would have come up with. So I really like that.
I'm always like 2 steps away from making an Oscar Wilde reference, so it was like bound to happen.
As you should be.
Yeah.
6 degrees of separation from celebrities. You're 1 degree away from an Oscar Wilde reference.
Exactly. Exactly. At any given moment in my life, I am like this close to making an Oscar Wilde reference. I think that's true.
No, I really
Yeah.
like what you said. Because I mean, that's like even what I wrote in my Goodreads review was like the slice of life ness of it all, like the small town gossip, like all of that is what made it like really good and juicy and charming and amusing, and what I liked about it. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that was well said from Julia too. All right. I know we are, Taylor, what's your time looking like?
6:45. We can go as long as 7, but 6:45 is.
6:45 is better. Okay, let's head into quotes then. We'll see how many we can hit.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
you don't
this
mind me
was-
going first, since I
Just
don't have a
do.
lot of quotes.
And I think we'll just sort of like round robin this. We'll keep going until we run out. So go for it.
Yeah. So I have this banger from Sybil. When I was young, said Sybil, women didn't go to funerals. For some reason or other, it wasn't customary. Perhaps one can see why. Women nearly always outlive men, and I suppose it may have been a kind of subconscious jealousy. The men wouldn't want to have the women standing there in the cemetery, triumphant at having outlived them. So good.
Love her.
Sybil, yeah. Sybil just like lots of bangers from her. You want to go, Julia?
Similarly, I love this from Wilma about Sybil. She's talking about her being agnostic. I could not protest, for there was something about my mother-in-law's bleakly courageous agnosticism that I admired. It seemed to me rather brave for someone nearing the end of life to hold such views. Okay.
Yeah. I also starting off with Sybil. This is just an example of like the dry humor that when it's unexpected, it just like sends me. Wilmot, just at the right moment, she said. I don't seem able to get these right at all. I was trying to make a natural arrangement, but there seems to be something evil and malicious about chrysanthemums. It's just that the serious tone contrasted with that.
That's what I've always said about chrysanthemums, personally.
Evil and malicious. I just don't trust them.
Yeah.
Taylor, you're up.
Okay. Another banger from Sybil. They're talking about gooseberries, and this is in the beginning. And Sybil says, "Perhaps they are more a woman's fault. Fruit," said Sybil, "like rhubarb. Women are prepared to take trouble with sour and difficult things, whereas men would hardly think it worthwhile." The men were silent for a moment, as if pondering how they might defend themselves, or whether that, too, was hardly worthwhile. Rodney's next remark showed that they had evidently considered it not to be.
Yep. That was the next one I had marked. It was
I have
that's page 9. That's page 9. So right out the gate, I'm like, okay, nice. Like just dropping some incredibly astute observations in among all the humor and the cozy vibes. I love that.
Oh my god. Sorry, I'm scanning. I have so many that I'm like, I gotta be picky because I have a million things highlighted.
I know.
What is this? I'll just read this about Wilmot. I'm just picking on a random. Okay. And you know what? I do kind of like this because I was talking earlier about how Wilmot just kind of like sees her like weird decisions, just like, oh, I'm so altruistic, like the good I could do by making these random decisions. So this is I don't know what's going on. I think she was talking to Piers. Whatever. I smiled. The evening had been almost too successful, and I had the pleased and comfortable feeling wait, what? The pleased and comfortable feeling oh my god. I had the pleased and comfortable feeling I used to have after parties in Italy when I had been admired and cherished. Wow, sorry, that was a struggle for me. But now, of course, it was rather different. Still, there could be no harm in having lunch with Harry or walking with Piers in the park. I could show Harry what a good wife Rowena was, and as for Piers, drifting and rootless, perhaps often drunk, it might be that my friendship could be beneficial to him. It seemed an excellent winter program. Then, for no apparent reason, I remembered my promise to Mary Beamish to join the panel of blood donors. I saw myself lying on a table, blood pouring from a vein in my arm into a bottle, which, as soon as it was full, would be snatched away and rushed to a hospital to save someone's life. There seemed at that moment no limit to what I could do.
She's so extra and dramatic about everything, and I enjoy that. So we were talking about that line from Piers about intellectual women are seldom attractive. The combination of beauty with brains is to me unnatural and therefore rather repellent. Rowena says, that's an old-fashioned idea. Nowadays, women seem to have everything. I suppose men find that frightening. Like, it's, and Rowena is a character who's not in the book very much, but it's like, yeah, the women see these things because they've noticed these things. It's like, and even,
I do like that Rodney afterwards is like, I know one woman who is smart and pretty.
And
everyone just sort of ignores him. Like, okay.
Rodney always getting ignored. Yeah. And it's like, even if Piers is one of those people who like they sort of they say things on purpose to like shock people, even if they don't always necessarily believe it, you know, I still think that says something about the kind of person you are. You know, it's like I don't think somebody would say that so flippantly if they didn't at least partly believe it, that women can't be pretty and smart at the same time.
Yeah.
So okay, I know we're going out of order, but I have another one ready if you guys need a minute.
What?
Yeah, go for it.
So this is the part I was talking about with like Wilmot sort of thinking about that like receptionist and everything. My eyes, which had been searching around the room for personal touches, came to rest on a vase of pussy willows, all golden and fluffy, on top of a filing cabinet. I supposed that Miss Limpsett must have put them there, and the idea seemed almost unbearably pathetic. Had she gathered them in the country one fine weekend, I wondered, or bought them at a florist's, perhaps having to skimp on her already meager lunch to be able to do so? I confided my thoughts to Rowena as we hurried away down the dark stairs. Oh, Wilmot, you're much too sentimental, she said. She's a perfectly gristly woman. It's just as likely that Piers or Mr. Whatsit bought the pussy willows. Like, that moment, I think, is, like, it really represents why I still like Wilmot, in spite of her, because, like, she does have this, like, her imagination she also uses in service of other people, kind of thing. Like, she just has this, like, compassion and understanding for them that I appreciate. So, anyway, okay. I went 2 in a row, so you guys should go.
Well, this is another one near the beginning. And I think we brought up this conversation. Well, let us hope this new one will be up to standard, said Sybil vaguely with a glance at me. Shall we leave the gentlemen to their port and manly conversation? Women are supposed to not like port except in a rather vulgar way, she added as we rose from the table, and the male conversation that goes with it is thought to be unsuitable for feminine ears. I could not help smiling as I looked at the 2 men, who seemed so very formal and correct. I just thought that was, like, very funny.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, it's so different scanning through an ebook instead of having tabs. I'm like,
I have one. I'm sorry, Julia, I'm taking your turn again.
No, please go.
So this is when they're talking about Keith being a knitting model. Her and it's Wilmot and Rowena are talking about it, and of course we didn't tell him about Keith being a model and posing for knitting patterns. I thought it better not, though goodness knows lots of most respectable looking men seem to do that. All those solid pipe smoking types. In double knitting wool, I giggled. Yes, I'd noticed that too, but I didn't tell Rodney either. No, much better not, I think. Men are so narrow-minded and catty, said Rowena. But it was all right about Keith working in the coffee bar. You see, the daughter of a man Harry knows does that. It's rather a chic kind of job, though perhaps not very manly, and I think Harry is beginning to realize that men needn't necessarily always do manly jobs. Like, Rowena, again, love it.
I really like Rowena. She's in the book for so little of it.
Yeah. It's like, it wasn't until I was writing my questions out and everything and sort of gathering my thoughts that I realized how small the cast actually is. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't feel like it for some reason. I guess because the relationships are so, like, interconnected and messy that it feels like there's a lot of people involved. But, yeah, it's actually a much smaller main cast than I thought. even secondary characters, it's not that many.
Yeah. I have a quote, funnily enough, comparing Wilmot and Mary, which we were doing quite a bit. I tried a sweet shop that made special truffles I liked and bought half a pound, thinking rather defiantly of Mary as I did so. I was unable to decide what it was that I found so irritating about her goodness. It could not be only that she was such a contrast to myself and made me feel guilty and useless. Then I began to examine the paradox of good and wicked people, why the wicked were often nicer. I was still pondering about the unpleasant character of the wise virgins in the parable when I found that I was nearly home without realizing it, and blah, 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 and she runs into Father Ransom. But I was like, Wilmot calling it out herself.
Yeah. She's like, man, I'm kind of a bitch sometimes. Like,
And I guess to me, it's just a guilty and useless thing.
This one I thought was really interesting with like the like religious and secular discussions. Talking about Christmas cards, we received very few of the ironically named religious cards, and those that we did were not of a high artistic standard, and the verses, though sincere, were often embarrassingly bad. I just resonate with that so much because it's like there are certain ways that like religion is portrayed even by people who are themselves religious in some capacity, where it's like I'm embarrassed. Like it's such a weird, I don't know, it's such a weird like thing to articulate, I guess. But like I guess like a lot of times when I criticize the way that like overly preachy religious stories are done, it's like it feels like secondhand embarrassment almost, where it's like I don't doubt your sincerity, but this is like so uncomfortable, and this is maybe one of the reasons why people like view religion as a certain way. I don't know if any of that made sense. It's just like I can't think how to say it any better. Do you know what I mean? Probably not. I'm not making much sense, but
No, I get what you mean.
it's like just the way she says like I don't doubt their sincerity, but it's embarrassing. It's like, yeah, like that's how it feels sometimes. Like, yeah. Anyway.
So this one might have been read earlier on and my memory is just terrible, so if it was read, stop me. But sometimes, I envy really wicked women or even despised spinsters. They at least can have their dreams. And can't we? I asked. Not really, said Rowena. Or if we do, we know that there's absolutely no hope of their coming true. Whereas the despised spinster still has a chance of meeting somebody, perhaps a young man who will love her for her money, or an old one whom she can be a comfort in his declining years. At least she's free.
Yeah.
Just another moment of Rowena. Just sort of, I don't know. I like the way she thinks, and it's sort of interesting that she sees being a spinster, let's see, like as a sort of freedom, because I guess it says a little bit about how she views marriage.
She is trying to force people off. I don't know, guys.
Yeah. It's like her and Wilmot when they're talking about when they were in the Wrens and like all the parties and the admiration. It's like, especially from Rowena, I don't get the feeling that she's like unhappy in her marriage or with her life, but there's kind of this nostalgia for possibility. And that feels very human and understandable to me. Like, yeah, because like she's married and she has kids and she's happy, but does that mean that she shouldn't ever sort of like daydream about like having like the time of her life where she had almost unlimited choices, it seemed,
Yeah. And this like comes when she takes herself out on a day of like shopping and she gets her hair done. So it's a sort of treat yourself day. And it's sort of, I think also sort of wistful for like a time when she didn't have to worry about seeming selfish for doing stuff for herself.
Yeah, it's like Rowena's character is a really interesting sort of criticism of like the idea that being a wife or mother is like all encompassing for your identity. You know, if you're a woman who has children or who is married, that is now the defining characteristic of who you are. And it's like, no, obviously not. And like, Rowena highlights that, like, she's still such an interesting person. And yeah, it's like, I don't get the feeling that she regrets her marriage or her kids. She seems like she's a great mom, and has a pretty happy family life, aside from whatever her husband's doing with Wilmot. But yeah, it's like she's her own person. She's not just mom. Like, yeah.
I got another Sybil quote.
All right, hit us.
This was like when Rodney was talking about exchanging Christmas presents at work. I suppose men don't exchange handkerchiefs or sticks of shaving soap wrapped in gay Christmas paper, asked Sybil. Not among themselves, said Rodney, but the women aren't above giving us presents. Aren't above, said Sybil indignantly. What a way of putting it. You don't deserve to get any presents at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love her.
I know. Rodney is like, I don't dislike him. Actually, like near the end of the book, especially when he and Wilmot are like talking more, like it becomes clear that they have a similar sense of humor, actually, which surprised me. So like I actually do like Rodney well enough, but like sometimes he just says things, or like it's like, why did you not think this through before you opened your mouth, Rodney? Like they're not above giving us presents. Like, because I had the same exact reaction. I'm like, wow, like what a way to say it. No present for you, sir. Yeah. All right, I think I hit all of my major quotes. Yeah, any last ones you guys want to share, or last thoughts on the book?
Because I'm back at 40% of the book. I'm like, I don't know. Is there a better quote I want to share? Probably. Or anything I saved on Bookly?
While you look, do we want to mention our next book that we'll be discussing?
Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin.
I've been so excited to get to a James Baldwin book.
I think I've only read nonfiction and poetry from him, and those were just like short excerpts. So it'll be really interesting to read a novel.
My very first. I'm very excited. Okay, well, I don't know if I have another quote, so I'll end with this just because it made me laugh. The part, Kara, that you were referring to earlier about when the bees are there and he's got to go smoke them out or whatever. I just love, Madam, come quickly, she cried. The bees are swarming. Well, what can I do? I called out, looking around me. I don't know anything about bees.
And then she's like, where's the gardener? And she's like, he's digging a grave. Look, he's what? And then they go to get Mary, and she does the exact same thing. She's like, where's the gardener? I don't know anything about bees. Yeah. And I feel like that whole scene, it's like, I love moments in books where it's like, it sort of combines these like very different things that I like about it, because it's like, it's very funny, but it's also very like profound and thoughtful. Like when she's thinking about like the old priest being trained to take care of bees, and she's thinking about like the pagan look of like the beehive and everything, and it's like, I don't know, I like that contrast. I like that a lot. So fun one to end on, Julia. Thank you.
Anyways,
The bees.
Next time we'll be on my channel. We're going to talk about Giovanni's Room.
Yes.
by
Yes.
James Baldwin.
Yes. All right. So I think that is everything. Thank you for those who watched along or read along with us. Thanks to people who watch after the fact. Yeah, like I said at the very beginning, we are very excited to be back and discussing. And our schedule may be inconsistent, but we do always come back. So that's what we need to keep in mind. But yeah, thanks for joining us for our discussion. Julia and Taylor are already linked in the description. And like Julia said, we'll be reading and discussing Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin on her channel in approximately a month. We'll see. We'll see how things go. But yeah, do you guys have anything to add?
No, this was great. Thank you for hosting, Kara.
Right. Yes, thank
Good
you both
discussion.
of you for joining in for your first Barbara Pym novel. I do definitely think her books are a specific mood and flavor, but if you can hit it at the right time, I feel like that's what happened to me with Excellent Women when I first read it. So, all right, thank you guys, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye. And straight.